Hey there, it's Carrie with the Gilded Bubble, and today I'm going to be making one of my best sellers, which is called the Peach Pit, named because I used a peach fragrance oil and because it has apricot seed in it, which an apricot and a peach, kind of the same thing. One has fur, one doesn't. Maybe fuzz is better than fur. But anyway, this obviously, if you're a 90s girl like me, you will know where that name came from. So you can see here that I've already put my lye solution into my oils and I'm mixing that up. This design, this is a remake. This is one of my earliest batches that I had up for sale. And it sold really well because the texture that apricot seed gives is really good for a deep cleansing if you've got um, like my husband will use this one when he's comes home from work. He manages an auto parts store, and he'll have some grease on his hands, and he makes hydraulic hoses, and so he'll have hydraulic fluid and things on him. And his hands are dirty at the end of the day, so he'll use that to wash up with because it's kind of like I don't know, it's a little bit more gentle than something like Gojo, which has some exfoliating stuff in it to help clean. It's not as deep cleaning as that, but the scrubbing from the apricot seed actually really helps. And so he'll often use like a wipe, a Gojo wipe before he comes in the house, and then he'll use this soap to get what that didn't get. But it's really great too if you like gardening, you get that deep dirt on your hands and under your fingernails. But you can see here, I put just about a tablespoon of this into the entire batch. I would recommend if you do use a soap that has this in it, just kind of be careful. I wouldn't recommend using this on your face as an exfoliating. You should use a more gentle exfoliant on your face than something like a walnut shell or an apricot seed. But in terms of like washing your hands or even like the rough part of your feet, if obviously right now with the whole COVID pandemic, getting out to get a pedicure may not be feasible for a lot of people right now, or you may not feel comfortable doing it. And so we've got those dry, cracked heels. Plus, it's winter, so just going into spring, it's a nice thing to do. So you can use it really to kind of get some of the dead skin cells off. But overall, it's just a soap. It's going to get you clean, and that little bit of texture just helps get, a little bit extra off your skin. So here I'm going to go ahead and measure this out. This one actually has 4 different colors. And apparently one of the reasons I didn't kind of get into what colors I was using was because a couple of these were sample bags and I don't have the name of the company on them anymore. But I use 4 different shades. One is kind of a pinky, neutral, kind of a mauve color. This one here you can see has a little bit of orange to it. I use a brown, and then I have one that I leave pretty much natural. And I really like the way this looks, but in order to do this, you have to let each individual layer set up. And the fragrance oil that I'm using here, which I think I forgot to put in, so I'm going to probably have to remember to do that at some point, is Southern Peach by Nature's Garden. And it smells like a fresh peach. It's a really, really good peach scent. It is a little lighter in the soap, so the soap isn't overly perfumey if you don't like a strong scent, but it has a slight fresh one to it. But this one actually will kind of decelerate my batter, I find, a little bit. So it can be a little challenging to get those first couple layers set up, but I really like the result of what this looks like. So you'll see here in a minute once I get all this poured, the way that I'm going to layer this, I'm going to angle my mold. So let me fast forward through some of this pouring so you don't have to watch me sit here and measure these colors repeatedly. And then I'll come back and explain how I'm going to do the layering. Okay, so this is my last layer here, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it a stir to make sure that my apricot seed is pretty well blended in there, but that color is going to stay the natural color of soap, which is essentially like a buttery, pale color. It doesn't really have any real color to it. And here I'm putting the fragrance oil in, so I think I finally remembered that I wanted to do that. But I also remembered that this is my bottom layer, so I should probably put the fragrance in that first, just in case. Because this was my first time using this specific. No, I think it was the second one. But I didn't know if, I was going to have an issue with getting it to set up. So it's always a good idea to use your, to put, the fragrance in the layer you're going to pour first when you're doing a layered soap, just in case. But in this instance, this one does not set up quickly. And I'm really careful with how much I stick blend because you don't want to totally pulverize your apricot seed. It's already pretty fine, but I don't want to worry about having to do that. So, or having the losing the texture of the apricot seed if I overmix it. So you can see here, just barely in the corner of the screen, because yet again, Carrie didn't think about the fact that here you are looking at my scale the whole time. But you might recognize my scale. That is a Weight Watcher scale from back in the day. Works great for soap making. Before it was used for soap making, I used it as, just a regular kitchen scale, and I've gotten a new one since then. But you can see here, okay, so I finally remembered to put it back in the frame. I'm stick blending a little bit, but I don't want to go too crazy with it. So I'm trying to get it to probably about a medium trace, because as you can see, I've put that towel underneath the edge of the mold there to lift it up so that I get not quite a 40 to 45 degree angle, but a little less than, so, or a little more than, I guess, in the way angles work. But because I want this soap to be layered and in kind of this zigzaggy looking pattern. I think if I remember correctly, I show that to the camera at some point to show you what it's going to look like. But if not, you'll get to see it at the end when I photograph it and share that with you. But here I'm just going to clean off the stick blender a little bit because that's going to get stuck in another color. So I don't want too much extra soap stuck on that. Oh, here we go. Look, right when I thought I was going to do it. That's what the original batch that I did looked like. And that was just literally one of the first soaps I sold. So this here is me pouring that first layer. So it's going to give it kind of a zigzag on the edge of it. And I'm going to use all this batter. So I divided my batter up evenly into 4 different layers. And so this soap came out a slightly different color than that first one because, I was using sample colors when I did the first one, and I was using them again on this one. So going forward, I'm going to try to match, I think, that first batch a little bit better because I actually like those colors a little bit more. But this one still turns out really great, and I think I do have a few left in the shop. And I've also got another exfoliating soap coming up, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, so this is going to need to set up. I'm just spreading it out evenly so that it sits in the bottom really, really well. But I do want this layer textured, so I'm kind of going through here. It doesn't need to be a lot of texture, and this is not really set up quite enough to retain this texture, so I'm going to let it sit for a little bit. But this design has little mica pencil lines in it. So they're real thin lines that you see from the outside of the soap when it's cut. And I just really like the look of this. The first time I did this soap, I was just kind of playing with that technique. I'd seen it done and really liked it. Obviously there I'm using Mad Mica's Wicked to do this. But basically with this technique, I'm sure if you watch soaping videos, you've seen this. But if you're just someone who likes to buy my soap, this might be of interest. But this is literally just done with a little bit of mica and a tea strainer. And you kind of coat the layer of soap lightly. You don't want to do it too much or the soap will immediately start to separate when you use it. Sometimes these will, when you get down to like the last little bit of soap, will separate a little. But then I like to, because I use a lot of my own soaps. My husband and I use them in the shower quite a bit. And when they get to that point where, you might have little tiny slivers left, then I'll take them out of the shower and put them by the sink to use as a hand soap. So if you, get down to those scraps of soap, another thing you can do too is if you have several small scraps, you can kind of combine them into like into a ball or press them together when they're wet, and then they'll stay together like that. Make it a little bit more manageable. This is the last time I used this particular tea strainer also. I got another one recently from IKEA that has a handle on it. This one was kind of a nightmare because it was meant to be a tea infuser that you just drop into the glass, and it had a little chain on the end, and I took the chain off and thought, well, this will work. But it was just way more messy than it needed to be. So you'll see I get a lot of this mica on the edge of the mold here. Starts to be a theme, doesn't it, with me? I'm messy. Though, I try not to worry about that. I did a quick little video today for Instagram talking about how I clean and sanitize my surface, both before and after here I'm just checking to make sure it's set up enough that that layer's not going to slide down when I go to pour the next one. So I'm going to let that sit just a little bit longer. But so today I was doing this video about how I was going to do, how I clean my surfaces because I am so messy. I'm constantly cleaning. But I always disinfect my surface with alcohol, and then I also use vinegar. Either I'll spray it down with vinegar or I'll wipe it with a vinegar wipe to make sure that all the if there's any remaining lye, that it's neutralized so I don't burn myself or it doesn't damage things. And of course, I'm doing stuff off camera, but I was adding some fragrance oil here. Um, so, I am really, really clean. And you'll notice this is before I actually moved into another room in my house. This was in my kitchen. So I had this tablecloth down. And for that was really about keeping the stuff off my countertops because I didn't want to run the risk of I missed some unsaponified soap or lye that would potentially hurt, you know, humans or cats because I do have cats. But now I'm totally in a room that's closed off. They don't ever come into my soap studio. And I have a stainless steel surface to work on, so I don't have to worry about all this. But I still make a mess. That part has not changed. I am still a messy soap maker. So hopefully, if any of you that are watching this are beginners or equally or have been doing this for a long time and are equally messy, this hopefully shall give you a little vindication that you don't have to be perfect at soap making. I watch a lot of soap makers. I love watching other people make soap. It's very relaxing for me. And Terry from Tree Soapworks, I know I've mentioned her before, but oh my goodness, she is so neat, so precise, so organized. She even like mixes her colors like on a little like on a palette with a palette knife to make sure that they're fully incorporated. She's so precise. She uses all these mathematical measurements and all this stuff. And I love watching her work, but I don't know that I will ever be that precise. Although I've gotten more and more precise. I think I've said before that I used to just eyeball my layers and my amounts of soap, and now I tend to measure them so I know exactly how much I've got. But that's because I want precise layers, or I want a certain amount of soap in my drop swirl. Some people don't worry about that. That's their design aesthetic. This just happens to be mine. So I'm somewhere between the hyper precision of Terry and, in being a total hot mess. So, although sometimes I am. Actually, one of my favorite soapers to watch is Keely with Soy and Shea. She's an Australian soap maker. And actually, the other day I noticed she's using the same Canva template for her cover shot for her YouTube videos. And now I'm thinking I probably should change mine because she's more well known than me, and I don't want people to think that I took it from her. But I don't know. I just thought that was an instance of great minds think alike. Because honestly, in interest of full disclosure, I started using shea butter in my soap because of her, and use a very similar formulation. So, and she readily gives that, so I don't think it's an issue. Plus, she's halfway around the world for me, she lives in the future, as I like to say about people in Australia. But I just love it. And she's so kind and so generous. I've commented a couple times on her Instagram posts, and she always responds, and she's just a really positive influence. And I love seeing all the fun things she makes. She does more than soap. I'll leave a link in the description to her YouTube channel. But she also does like room sprays and body milk and shower steamers. I'm trying to think of some of the stuff. I think she also does lotions, and shampoo bars and beard balm, and I don't know, all kinds of stuff. I could be imprecise on all of those things, but I know she does the shower fizzies, like the steamers that you can do in the shower. And I just love that idea because I've bought the ones, the commercially made ones before for when you're like sick, like that. It's basically like menthol and aromatherapy, and that can be really good. So anyway, you should definitely check her out, especially if you're in Australia, because obviously you can get that shipped to you pretty inexpensively. I haven't looked into her stuff in terms of buying some because I just keep assuming that it would be really expensive, but I probably should do that. It's a nice way to say thank you to creators that you watch their content regularly. She also has a Patreon, I believe. So even if you're not, soap maker, maybe I'll go become a patron or something. Anyway, you always have to, I feel like you always have to pay it forward. You also have to thank the people that helped you, and I certainly, I think my soaping style is a little closer to hers, although I think I don't want to insult her. She's much neater and precise than I am. But I also just love her accent. I like listening to her talk. So that's my spiel on Keely from Soy and Shea. So here, I just added a little more pink into that color so it wouldn't be quite as orange as my bottom layer. But you can see here I'm mixing up these additional 2 layers while I'm letting that other one set. And again, I put that mica line on it in between and got it everywhere. I just have to live up to my reputation of being messy, I guess. I don't know. Oh, which speaking of, the other day I'm making a batch of soap, and I set my phone on the shelf that has all my color on it that's right above my table that I'm using. And I missed and dropped my phone into my batch of oil. Yes, I dropped my phone. Pro tip though, the iPhones are pretty much water resistant, not quite waterproof. I guess you wouldn't want to submerge them in a pool or something, but if you get them wet or you drop them in the toilet, they're not going to immediately fry out like the older phones would. Um, but they're also oil resistant. I do have a little bit of issue with sound being kind of garbled, but otherwise the phone works just fine. But I also pulled it out right away, although my mom says I just stood there and stared at it for a second. But wouldn't you? I mean, life goes in slow motion, right? So like you drop the the phone into the oil, and then I had to remeasure my oils and all kinds of stuff. So I was going to film that soap, and I didn't, and now I wish I had because it turned out really pretty. But I will probably do a little quick, maybe I'll do a quick little video or something on Instagram. So you should follow me over there, on how I made it, because I modeled it after like a Rocky Mountain sunset. I Googled some pictures because I used some components from a soap that I didn't like the way it turned out and remade. But in the process, I dropped my phone and my oils and broke my multi-bar cutter. Well, I broke the wires on it. I mean, I can replace them. But so there you go. That was the weekend I had. So going back to this soap reminds me of such a simpler time when I knew exactly what I was trying to make. I was a little messy at it, but it came out exactly how I wanted. I've had so many mishaps lately, and nothing major. I mean, the soap's coming out fine. But I have a batch that was meant to be part of a custom order, and I didn't I don't think it fit what I had promised to that customer. So I went ahead and once they get their order and stuff, I'll probably put that one up as a limited edition soap, because it is a nice looking soap. It just wasn't exactly what they had asked for. So, but it was my first of many oopses that I've done, and so watching myself do this, I feel like, wow, no, I really do know what I'm doing. Didn't drop my phone in the oil, didn't knock the camera off or anything. I didn't, I didn't forget to let something set up or let it set up too much. Like, in retrospect, this one kind of went really perfectly smooth. So I'm going to have to get back to this particular habit. But so when you see this video, I made this video, gosh, this soap is available in my store right now. It's ready to go. It's fully cured. So this was at least a month ago that I did this video. And so since then I have a few more soaps that'll be available by the time you see this. I've got some Valentine's Day soaps coming up that you should keep an eye out for. I've also got, some more kitty soaps coming up. I've got one that I named Yellow Kitty. Ha! I know, I'm so punny. It goes really well with Party Kitty. And I have another exfoliating soap coming out. Trying to think what else I have. I got a lot. There's a lot that I've made recently. I've done a couple custom orders, so that always pushes back the ones that I can put in the shop. But I have so many available, so hopefully you'll check that out. And I'm hoping to kind of get in a little bit more regular schedule posting here, although with the move from my kitchen to what I'm making it sound fancy by calling it my soap studio. It's a spare bedroom that I've kind of converted. But in that move, I got out of the habit of filming and was trying to figure out a setup. And now I think I've got one that'll really work. I've got a wall mount coming so I can actually use my phone and not drop it in the oil. A novel concept. So normally I don't do textured tops, but this one I kind of leave a little uneven when I'm done. I don't plane the top off, so I'm kind of gonna play around here and get this clean so that I have clean edges at least, and don't have a mess. But here I just smear the mica everywhere. I really should be using a wipe or using some alcohol or vinegar to get that off, and that looks like that may be what I went to do. So hopefully, yeah, that came off a little bit better. But this is hard to get off, so being messy has its downsides. I have a lot of cleanup to do. You can see that towel there, which is literally just one of my kitchen towels because I grabbed it quickly. Now I have a separate set of towels so I don't ruin my kitchen towels. But it just gets that mica when you're doing that gets everywhere. So there I go. That's a little bottle of alcohol, rubbing alcohol that I have in a spray bottle. So I'm just spraying the towel with it to wipe that down. You see how much easier that comes off when I use the alcohol. But I'm really just getting that off the edge so I just don't get, when I pick this mold up, I don't just then transfer it to everything in the house. Because right now I'm wearing gloves, but later on when I, go to move this or go to unmold it, I have to grab the edge of it, and I don't want to get that everywhere. And since this was back when I was doing it in my kitchen, I had to try to keep the stuff away from the cats, so I would put it either in the oven, or I would put it in the microwave, or I would put it on top of the refrigerator. Depending on how many batches of soap I was doing, I might have done all three. So I can't even see it when I go to grab it if it's on top of my refrigerator. So I don't want to get that everywhere. Anyway, I'm rambling about stupid things, but I don't know. My mom said I was funny. And there you go. That is the Peach Pit. And now, of course, you get to see the cut of this one. And you can see there, that's what it looks like on the ends. This is also interesting because if you watched last week's video, you would have heard me say, oh, I don't have a video of the cut of this one. Apparently, I filmed both of these together and didn't realize that I had a cut of the tuxedo cat. So I might throw that one in here just for fun so you can see that cut. I don't know. I like watching cutting because that's where all the fun is in soap making, in the creating of it anyway, because you get to see the inside of what you just worked on. Which hopefully turned out the way you wanted. But this one, I kind of know what it's going to look like. But with a swirl, you get to see, it just comes out so beautifully, and you get to see the surprise that happened on the inside. So there's what that looks like. So all that layering that I did kind of made those zigzags, and by tilting it on top of the towel like I did, gives me those angled layers. And that's what the original looked like. So you can see those side by side. Colors are slightly different, but the overall soap is exactly the same. And that one will, get a little more defined too as it cures. That is a cured soap next to an uncured soap. But look at that. I just love those I love this. This is one of my favorite techniques not to do. It is a little bit more of a pain in the butt than a drop swirl or in the pot. However, as far as results go, I love this because you get done and you're like, oh, all that hard work was worth it. And I just think this one turns out pretty. Plus, as an exfoliating soap, this is a very, neutral kind of scent and design. It's neither feminine or masculine. So it really just has these kind of qualities that pretty much anybody would enjoy. Maybe not children. I don't think children need exfoliating, but... But, if you've got, like I said, if you like to garden or work on a car or anything like that, this is really good to get that last little bit of stuff off your hands. And like I said, cracked heels. We all got those gnarly heels this time of year, unless you're getting regular pedicures, but not me. So there's that. And here I'm going to clean off my... I love doing this part. This is so fun. I'm so depressed that I broke that. I broke like 4 of the wires on it cutting this soap that I did. And I knew better. I knew not to cut it with the multi-bar, and I did it anyway. And like I said, I'm just a disaster sometimes. Like, that's me all the time. Like, I know better, and then I do it anyway. Like, I know I shouldn't be doing it that way, and yet here we are. It's like the time I planed off a bit of the tip of my finger on my soap planer, which you can see in the corner there. That little wooden thing sticking out is my soap planer, and I literally sliced off the tip of my finger. And I knew better. It's just like a mandolin, like when you're cooking, or using it in a kitchen to create really thin slices. It's really sharp. Don't run your finger over it. And I was cleaning it. I had a paper towel in my hand to clean it with, and I just didn't think and hit it with my finger and sliced it right open. And I knew better. Yay, but here's the tuxedo cat from last week. I could go back, I guess, and re-edit that video, but I think it's kind of fun the way it is. And then the surprise of, if you ever watch this video, you're like, hey, and there I am going slow again. I am just hesitant, and now you know why, because I was worried about breaking the wires, and I did. So now that it's happened to me, I won't be so afraid, because I know I can fix it. But there is what the cut of the tuxedo cat happened. And if you look closely, you can see I have partial gel. There's a little bit of a halo around the top of that cat. See that darker spot? that means that soap started to gel. I don't force gel. I don't C-pop. I did try it one time. I didn't find that it made much of a difference for my soap. Um, I live in Florida. It's pretty warm here anyway, so my soaps tend to get warm enough that I get gel. And sometimes it's only a partial gel. My honey soaps tend to partial gel, so I'll get a little bit of a ring in that. But they also discolor a little, so you don't tend to notice it as much, and it doesn't bother me. But that just means that soap got warmer there in the middle than it did everywhere else. But you'll see how that's brighter. However, once these were fully cured, you couldn't see that. Couldn't see that at all. I like this pink color too because it doesn't show the soda ash on top. But look at how cute. I love my kitty soaps. They're so much fun. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it. I talked a little bit about how I do cat and kitten rescue and trap, neuter, return. And I'm a cat lover. I love all animals, but cats are by far my fave. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you can get more of this great, disastrous content and soap making wonderment. And don't forget to visit my website, maybe follow me on Instagram or maybe even Facebook. And I'll see you next time.